Good morning, my fellow Western Patriots. Lord Stompy here in Adelaide, South Australia. Welcome to the show. Today's show, we have some very, very serious developments for our countries and our people here in the West. It seems that large numbers of extreme left-wing Westerners, most of them from Antifa, are actually now going to the Middle East to get military training with the Kurdish army. Now, this sounds far-fetched and fanciful, but this, as you look into this report, I'm going to show you some actual footage on the ground of, essentially, there is an Antifa platoon who are now working with the Kurdish PKK and YPG armies. And so these guys are going overseas in their thousands, according to the intelligence that we're getting. And a lot of them are getting killed, and a lot of them are coming back home. Now, most of this report, I've just edited some footage from the Templar report, which was a video that addressed this, because the Templar report is they've already put together a presentation and they've put together all the evidence of what is going on, and this is mind-blowing to me, and it ties in with my last video. My last video, I covered the fact that we now seem to have an incredible increase in the number of aggressive left-wing rolling protests here in my city of Adelaide. And in my last video, I went around taking photos of all the signs that the left-wing protesters, they're putting up posters everywhere, trying to rally their troops. So we had the Legalise Abortion campaign, where they want to legalise full-term abortion. This is being supported by many Labor candidates and pretty much all the Greens candidates. We've had the End Religious Discrimination protest coming up as well. And I'm about to say this right now. I looked up the religious affiliations of most Kurds. The vast majority of Kurdish people are Sunni Muslims. I can guarantee you this End Religious Discrimination campaign that the far left is now embarking upon, that I can guarantee you they are going to be targeting mostly Western Christians. I can guarantee you they will go very, very easy on the Sunni Muslims. So then we've also had a number of rolling climate change protests. So that's the Extinction Rebellion. Interestingly, this also ties in with all the other things I'm about to say. Have a look at these climate change rebellion goons running around acting like crazy people and big kids. They're acting like rebellious high school students. This is very, very interesting, is the whole Extinction Rebellion movement, which is essentially entirely organized by the elites. Anyone can work this out. The number of organizations, globalist organizations backing this, and the fact that all our children are being allowed to take multiple days off school to essentially become left-wing agitators. That's what they're learning. Our unions here in Australia, most of our unions are very left-wing. So the vast majority of our unions are backing these climate change protesters. All the teachers' unions are 100% behind radicalising our children. And so what they're learning is they're learning to get out onto the streets. And so that's the first step of radicalisation. And if they start going further down that rabbit hole of radicalisation, then they end up aligning with groups like Antifa. And if they go a little bit further with groups like Antifa, they actually start getting propositioned to go fight with terrorist armies in the Middle East. And it's very interesting that the head of this Extinction Rebellion, Greta Thunberg, not just herself but her family have all been photographed with Antifa t-shirts on. So the leaders, the supreme leader, Greta Thunberg, is a supporter of Antifa, and she openly is advertising that organisation. Let's have a look at some of these loonies and what they're teaching our kids in the streets.
I got issues, pass the tissues, let me cry my blues away. I got issues, pass the tissues, I'm crying both night and day. I went to see my doctor, broke down and cried. He said, take these happy pills till the day that you die for your issues. Here's a tissue, now pay my fee and go away. He said, pay my fee and go away.
Pour your hearts into the dust. This is our practice. This is our prayer.
Okay, so that's your Extinction Rebellion for you. But at the same time as all of this was happening, I also noted that there was hundreds of posters around town that were advocating for the Kurds. And what the Kurds want is their own ethno-state in the Middle East. And they've been fighting. They've been literally fighting a terrorist war for a long time on the ground. Now, it's a moot point. I'm not going to get entirely into the politics of this. Some people see the Kurds as freedom fighters. Some people see them as terrorists. I personally just see them as the eternal ongoing battles of the Middle East. These battles have been going on for millennium. And what I need to ask at this point is, why are our children being radicalized into fighting for foreign armies? They don't even stand up for their own people here in Australia anymore. In fact, they're being turned into a highly corrosive and aggressive, radicalized core. They're being turned into a radicalized core of people who are now, this is open, it's open warfare. They are now just absolutely going for the throats of anyone more traditional, patriotic, or Christian. So all of those protests that I just outlined there are essentially aimed at people like us. It's time we wake up to the fact that the far left politics, which is most left-wing politics now, this is part of the far left for decades and decades in the West has been more and more under control of the Fabian Society, or the Fabian Socialists. I'm going to put a link down below, and I'm going to do some videos on the Fabian Socialists. These guys, their idea of socialism is a global organization. It's been around since the 1880s. And the Fabian Socialists, their coat of arms when they originally formed was a wolf in sheep's clothing. And their whole idea was to infiltrate all the left-wing organizations and essentially, basically, start pushing, secretly and quietly, they would push those organizations further and further left towards international communism. So this is incredibly insidious and it's incredibly scary, because their plan was to take many generations to do this. But then, when the left-wing organizations across the globe have been pushed far enough, and that the Fabian Socialists felt that they'd gone far enough with this global plan, that suddenly they would come out across the world into an open attack on Western civilization. And this is now happening before our eyes. Okay, so now I've said this backstory to this, and I'm glad you're bearing with me. Let's hop across to the Templar Report, and I'll let Jim Dowson of the Templar Report show you the footage and give you the evidence of our Antifa Western children who have been completely brainwashed into fighting for a foreign Islamic army. And these kids are going to be coming back home either in body bags or radicalized with a lot of military skills and frontline military battle time. The fight is on. Patriots, if you guys, if Christians, patriots and traditionalists here in the West don't actually realize what is going on, then we're done. It's over. If we don't band together and come up with some counter strategies, at this point, it's game over. And I'm afraid it might be game over because we've been asleep for too long. So wake up, have a look at the evidence before your own eyes, and start to network, start to build. If we don't start to build networks now and start to realize the strategies of our enemies and start to realize some counter strategies to protect ourselves from this onslaught, they are going to go through us like a knife through hot butter. Okay, over to Jim Dowson.
Hello, Jim Dowson here, another Templar Report, and today I want to bring you some very worrying information that we have received regarding many hundreds, if not thousands, of Antifa, or Antifa as you say in America, people all travelling from America, from Britain, from Germany, all over again to Syria to take up arms with the YPG against the Turks at the moment. Now, why does that concern us? Well, these people will be coming home, just like the last lot came home, and they're coming home battle-hardened with real-time frontline experience. It's very serious. But anyway, I want you, first of all, because, you know, I don't want you just to take my opinion, I want you to have a look at this report from a Canadian documentary maker. Have a look.
Throughout the Obama administration's wishful thinking about what would happen if they, went after Assad the way they did, is not only did the PKK gain this land in northern Syria, but they were attracting Western fighters to come over and join their ranks. They set up an organization or a battalion that they called YPG International. But if you actually go back and look at the original name of that specific battalion, it wasn't YPG International. The original name was the International ANTIFA Battalion.
The rumors are that Antifa sent in about 500 troops to fight in this, many of which were killed, many of which survived to then come back. What does Antifa want with a bunch of seasoned combat veterans? Why do they need that to supplement their movement? So it's a very interesting question as to what precisely they were up to.
Well, the PKK is a designated terrorist group from the U.S. government and from the Turkish government. So if we've got a group in the U.S. that has ties to a designated terrorist group, then it's actually not that hard to convey that designation onto them.
You see these people, I mean, this is no joke, this is real serious stuff. I mean, I heard this week from a very reliable source, and Templars have got very reliable sources embedded with all sorts of groups, even at government level, that from England alone, 500 members of the Bob Crow Brigade or Battalion have left Britain, travelled to Syria to take up arms with YPG to fight against Turkey. And these are hardcore Marxist communists who, a lot of them have been there before. They were there fighting ISIS before, now they're away fighting the Turks. And they're coming back and forward to Britain and America, and the authorities are saying nothing. Yet if ex-vets go and fight, they're getting arrested, or right-wing people like us, the Templars. We gave Christians who were being murdered bulletproof vests to save their lives, not weapons. And we were all over the BBC, CNN, New York Post, Boston Globe, so on and so forth, everywhere. And all we were doing was giving people bulletproof vests so they weren't slaughtered when they were ploughing their fields. Yeah, these Antifa people are going in their hundreds. And there's a place, I can tell you, there's a place in North London. It's a Kurdish so-called community centre, and that is the main shipping point for the British ones. And they're in there, they're getting kitted out, they're getting their ration packs, they're getting everything, and they're even getting hand-to-hand combat training in there. And then they're travelling to engage with terrorists, fighting a state that they don't like, because, again, everybody's a fascist to them. Erdogan, the Prime Minister of Turkey, is a fascist to them. He's actually a mad lefty socialist. But everybody's a Nazi to Antifa. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that. But it is scary stuff. And these people are on the front line. And it's interesting. Even the gays are out there. It's bizarre. And you'll see by that picture, I mean, what next? You've got the gays describing themselves as, that these fags kill fascists. It's just insane. The whole thing's mad, but that's what's going on. So this is no joke. But I want us to really concentrate here. I'm talking here especially to the young men watching this. And I know people watch this from the alt-right and different groups, Tommy Robinson groups, and Danny Tomo and James Goddard and the Yellow Vests and Bass Stickman and all these people. They all watch this. I know that. So I'm going to say some things here that's not going to make you very happy. But hey, I don't care. Because there's going to be a war soon, and I've no time to be mucking about or tiptoeing around about your delicate feelings. And I'm sure as hell Antifa won't tiptoe around about you. They'll really riddle you with bullets in the next few years. So this is for your own good. And some of the older people watching this also need to hear this, and this is why the older people should support the young men who show real courage and leadership. While these guys are doing serving in hardline, frontline fighting units in Syria, our right wing youth are running about, and I've got to be honest here, they're like brats or bitches. They're running about like idiots. They're getting no battle experience either in the UK or USA. And it's a wee bit different in America, because a lot of right-wing people in America have served in the military. That's great, excellent, hat off to you, and I salute you. But in America and Europe, none of your people, very few of your people have been in the military. And they think turning up at a Tommy Robinson rally and shouting, "Oh, Tommy, Tommy!" They think that is tough, and they think that is going to stand up against what you've just seen. And these people with frontline battle experience. Across America, and in the UK in particular, and other countries in Europe, Antifa are training and they're arming. Understand that. Americans, no big deal, because most right-wing people there are armed, but in Britain, really big deal. Germany, big deal. France, Belgium, Holland, big deal, because we're not armed. But these people are training, they're arming, and they're getting frontline experience. Look at these British and American actual young men, Antifa fighters in Syria. Have a look at this video.
The women's liberation, and I thought it was really important to be a part of it. A lot of people here are wondering why the world stayed totally silent, and why people who call themselves leftists around the world aren't taking action. And we as anti-fascists call upon the international community to take civil action against the Turkish state and to join us in solidarity, and for committed revolutionaries to join us in our fight against the Turkish fascist state.
My name is Kendall Kamislov. I came to Rojava 5 months ago to support the women's revolution, and I feel personal responsibility because our government, the UK government, is giving every support militarily and economically to the fascist government of Erdogan in his quest to wipe out the people of Afrin and Rojava. And I think it's a shame that the people in my country, especially those who call themselves leftists, are not doing more to stop this. Biji Bakudan Afrin, Biji Bakudan Rojava.
That's serious stuff. I mean, these guys are serious. They're not joking. They are serious. And by the way, quite a few hundred of them have died. I seen a couple of years ago some funerals, some English Antifa people who'd been killed, and their bodies were brought home, and all the Kurds were out in the street walking up the motorway with a coffin and giving them a hero's send off. So think of what these guys are engaged in, and have a look at our lads, our young men. Have a look at the difference. There you go, you got a Tommy rally, everybody, oh, like a bunch of big, daft, idiotic girls' blouses fighting and scrapping with the police like this. Look at this Antifa picture. See that? Who's the police? The Antifa have got all the clobber. Now, we know George Soros and people like that are buying all this stuff. But, you know, if you're going to go out in the street and actually be a street army, you need all that stuff. I mean, in Northern Ireland, I cut my teeth in the Northern Ireland troubles. Way back in the 1970s, the loyalist paramilitaries had shields, full-length perspex shields before the British Army had them. So, you know, and 3-foot poles and all the rest of it, and van loads of guns just in case it got really heavy. You know, if these people are going to bring that type of professionalism, that type of equipment on the streets, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to just stand there singing, oh, Tommy, Tommy? Or in America, the alt-right fools who run about with their wee torches, you will not replace us, you will not replace us. They will replace you. Because they will go through you like a hot knife through butter. Because I've seen there, at the Tommy rally and at the Charlottesville, look at them. Look at the state of these people marching with their wee shields and their wee sticks. Do you know when I was about 7 or 8 and I lived in the, our equivalent to the hood, the slums of East Glasgow, we had 30, 40 in our gang. And when we were 8-year-old, we used to parade about with bin the lids from trash cans, and we'd paint our gang symbol on it, and we'd wooden swords, and we'd all march about. That's what we did when we were 8 years old. When we were older, some of us went to war. I went to war. And then we had AK-47s, grenades and RPGs. We didn't walk about with wooden sticks and silly handmade shields with pretty drawings on them in our 20s and 30s. We were actually in the front line fighting and dying and being injured. And that's what men do. They don't walk about. I mean, it's unbelievable. So you've got the clowns in Britain who are marching about shouting. In fact, we had one march that was 70,000 strong, but nobody said a word. It was a silent right-wing march. I'm sure they're shaking their shoes in the ivory towers of Parliament with that display. But fair enough, a lot of these guys were decent guys, and they don't know what to do. And the guys on the Tommy Robinson march, they just don't know what to do. But, you know, but Tommy and people like Danny Tomo and people like James Goddard, in themselves, they're no bad fellas, and at least they've got the courage to stand up and put their head above the parapet. But they have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea what's coming. Yes, you can go and shout and turn up at a shopping centre and have a one-to-one with the moosies or a bit of a gang fight with a punch-up. Listen, we're going way beyond that. These people are training. They are actually fighting in serious house-to-house battles. They're being killed, they are killing, and they're arming. I just wish Tommy, Tomo, Goddard, Base Stickman, and all these other right-wing leaders, what do you call that other guy, Spence and all the rest of them in America, get this into your skulls. Soon these people will run the streets as a paramilitary army. They will be like Hezbollah or the PLO or the IRA or the UVF. They will be an armed, disciplined force. Nobody's offering our people anything, other than the Templars, anything to resist this way or even survive it. So if you think some of our leaders at the moment and running these rallies, like Tommy Robinson rallies, the Charlottesville rallies and all that, if you think these people are going to lead you into battle, you know nothing coming, they have no conception it was coming. I grew up in the streets of Northern Ireland when I was a wee bit older, lived through a civil war here, was a combatant in the civil war here, it was very nasty. But I know what I'm talking about, and I know what's coming, and I'm looking at our lads and thinking, oh my goodness, you don't stand a chance. You're so out your depth, you're so outclassed by these leftists. I mean, if they're not running about in battle fatigues and AK-47s, as you seen a minute ago in the picture, they're running about with full Kevlar riot gear on. Compare that to our guys with their wee wooden shields and their wee sticks. It's pathetic, absolutely pathetic. You know, even when our guys do manage to get it together in these sort of alt-right groups, like Generation Identity, for example, I mean, have a look at them here. Here's a wee picture of them here. That's them training in a training camp in France, so they all got together from Britain and that. Do you see how many women are in their gang there, their wee group training? Do you see them all? They all look like some out of one of these Abercrombie Fitch adverts. They're all pretty young things, all middle class, doing their star jumps and their squat thrusts. They're not training with AK-47s, they're only abseiling down buildings. For goodness sake, there's football clubs in Europe whose soccer hooligans have got better training than that. There's not one of those folk in that generation photograph that I wouldn't take on with one hand tied behind my back. They're all a bunch of middle class university twits. balloons, pencil necks, clowns. Couldn't fight a white paper bag about them. So it's only a matter of time before they and some of the other crazies and the loons and the nutters join up and say, we're not having this. And if Trump wins another election, which I hope he does, pray to God, and if the Conservatives win a general election here, they might just say, do you know something, we've had enough of this democracy game. We don't believe in it anyway because we're Marxists. And they might go on the rampage. They certainly will start targeted assassinations of right-wing figures. No doubt I'm on their list. But they will do that because they've done this before. The IRA, in the last phase of their campaign, they were absolute Marxists. And that's what they did. They targeted right-wing people. The Red Brigade, that's the same with them. They were Marxists. They targeted people in Italy and ruling people and right-wing people. And Baader Meinhof gang, all of these people, that's what they do. So it's only a matter of time now, short time before Antifa start targeting people for political assassination and then preparing for the civil war. So I'm going to leave you with one bit of footage. Before you watch this bit of footage, gentlemen, I want you to think the last time you were on a Free Tommy parade or a They Shall Not Replace Us parade, a Generation Identity parade, or any other so-called right-wing group parade. Compare your activities that day with the activities of Antifa 3 days ago in this video. Do you understand what I'm saying, folks? Do you understand what I'm saying? And older people out there, do you understand what our young men are going to have to deal with and contend with? So if you see a young man with promise, with courage and intelligence, and is prepared to stick his head above the parapet, you back him. And our older people should back them. Don't back the loud-mouthed yobs who have got a loud tail and are running down the street whipping up a crowd of beard-bellied half-wits to shout and bawl at Muslims or shout and bawl at black people or shout and bawl at Jewish people or whatever they shout and bawl at. Unless they're serious young men, reject them. But if they are serious young men, we have a duty. We have an absolute responsibility to back them up with the hilt. But as usual, you know, the Templars are here. We are a fighting Christian order. We make no bones about it. We operate within the law. There is no civil war here at the moment, so we are not fighting. There's other parts of the world where our people do take up arms to defend Christians with the full backing and legal authority of the governments of those countries. So we do not break the law. We are not a terrorist group, but we are not pacifists either. And I can assure you, if and when the war comes to our continents, to our Western civilizations, we will be on the front line. So I would say to any young man watching this film, in these times of peace, this is a good time to join the Templars. While there is time, while there is peace, while there is no imminent threat from immediate danger, this is the time to start building networks and being part of organisations that when push comes to shove, they can act and you can act in a disciplined and organised and legal manner. That's all from me in the Templar Report. I'll speak to you again, and remember, stick close to God and you won't go far wrong. God bless you.